This single object encompasses a political assassination, a saint's explosive rise to fame, and one of the most dazzling artistic industries of medieval Europe. This is the Becket Casket. It's on display at the V&A, and today I'm going to explore how these two narratives, one violent and one artistic, combine in this single extraordinary object. To understand the Becket Casket, first we need some historical context. In the year 1170, Archbishop Tomas Becket was murdered inside Canterbury Cathedral by 4 knights who believed they were acting on the orders of King Henry II. You may well have heard the phrase, "Who will rid me of this turbulent priest?" that Henry II is supposed to have stated in anger and was taken as an instruction. The murder of Tomas Becket was an explosive event, politically and religiously. Devotion to Becket exploded. He very quickly became one of the most popular saints in Europe. Canterbury became a major pilgrimage centre, and relics associated with the saint were requested by churches elsewhere. And that's where the Becket Casket comes in, because such important objects can't be stored just anywhere. The casket is a reliquary, a container for relics, and it was made by the workshops of Limoges in central France. This city had become, in the 12th century, a major centre for production of enamelled goods. Thousands were made and exported throughout Europe. And the technique that was used was copper alloy sections that were then added to a wooden base. This is a detached example from a different Limoges enamel piece, and you can see how pins were used to attach it onto the framework, creating objects that glittered and glowed, but that, compared to the gold and silver of much church plate, were actually comparatively inexpensive. Becket Casket was created in the late 12th century, around 1180, 1190, so only 10 years or so after the death and canonisation of Becket, and it's one of the masterpieces of Limoges. It shows vivid scenes from his martyrdom, with the 4 knights closing in, swords raised, while he prays at an altar and other monks look on in horror. There's also images of his ascension to heaven and the figures of various other saints. These images weren't just decoration, they were powerful messages of conviction, sanctity and sacrifice that were indicative of the contents of the chest itself. This isn't the only casket for Becket to survive. There's actually a panel from one in the case next door at the V&A, and there are examples throughout the rest of Europe. We actually have evidence of a total of at least 40 caskets specifically for Becket's relics surviving, and that's an extraordinary number for a single object type within the Middle Ages, telling us something about the popularity of Becket's cult, but also about the workshop that created it as well. By the late 12th and 13th centuries, Limoges workshops were producing objects on a massive scale. They had moulds that allowed things like these slightly raised heads to be made multiple times over, and certain designs were repeated as well. For example, the detached plaque that I showed you earlier, there are virtually identical ones on a number of surviving complete crucifixes. This was medieval mass production, efficient, repeatable, stylish and very easily recognisable. The Becket Casket stands at the intersection of 2 forces, the meteoric rise of a new medieval saint and the flourishing of a vast enamel empire. If you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and let me know in the comments if there's any other objects or topics that you'd like me to go into. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.